Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our Empathy and Engagement Strategies webinar. We're so glad to have you. We'd love to hear where you're coming from. Drop in the chat. Where are you coming from? And we have a better than average get to know you question. If you are a frequent webinar visitor, you know we always start with some kind of fun connection. What is the best comfort food on a cold day? So tell us where you're coming from and what is your favorite cold day comfort food? Good stuff. I am Julie Hinshaw, the Director of Elementary Education, and I am joined by a couple of my amazing colleagues, Brandon and Hallie. Brandon, would you introduce yourself and let us know what is your favorite cold weather comfort food?
I'm coming from the state of Washington. And my favorite comfort food is not a food. It is a pumpkin spice latte.
Nice.
Which just gets me in that winter mode.
Good choice. Hallie, what about you? Introduce yourself.
I'm Hallie Roussel. I'm the secondary specialist here at Character Strong, and I have to go with a grilled cheese and tomato soup combination. I think that it's the warmth and it's also like the meal that I think about after I would come in from the snow as a kid or something, and my mom would have that ready. So I think of that as the most wintry meal and comfort food meal.
So good. That actually is my answer too. I don't usually do the tomato soup with it, although I respect it, but a good grilled cheese sandwich, gooey and buttery and delicious, hands down, great comfort food.
It's cracking me up. I see Roni from San Diego, and what popped in my mind is, what does she know about cold weather? Paradise. But the chai latte was a strong selection.
Nice. Yeah, you got lots of
we're making everybody too hungry.
Yeah, lots of soups. Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, it's not breakfast time, lunchtime. Ooh, chicken pot pie. That is a great one. Yeah, we got some great stuff in the chat. Looks like we are also coast to coast in the chat, which is always so fun to see. People joining us from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. But thanks for coming today, and thanks for making us all hungry with your amazing food recommendations. We are going to jump right in. We already introduced ourselves briefly, but we are here to bring you some really fun resources today. So, Hallie, take us away.
Hey, Julie, but before Hallie hops in, maybe we turn the music off for...
Oh, whoops. Good catch. There we go.
So we're going to be talking today about this empathy engagement connection. And sometimes we talk about empathy and engagement as two separate concepts. But one thing we're really trying to do today is to tie these two together and bridge the two so that we can look at these resources we have to offer you for winter break and around winter time through the lens of both empathy and engagement. So one of the things that we are going to talk a lot about today are ways that you can engage students through the lens of understanding them, understanding their needs, and also consistently demonstrating in the classroom that opportunities for empathy are the priority. Because when we open up opportunities to bring in empathy and we intentionally facilitate opportunities to practice empathy, that is a way to elicit engagement from students and to have students showing up to our classroom and to our communities that feel seen and understood so that we are able to engage them at the same time.
Amazing. Why winter resources? If you've been with Character Strong for a while, you know that this is something that we do every year, is put out resources at this time of year. We know that this is a fun time of year for most students and staff, but we also realize that it's not without challenges. This is a tough time of year for some students. It can be stressful, as perhaps maybe they're changing households. Maybe they're just away from the security and routine that comes from school, or even a simple, consistent eating schedule. Economic differences get elevated during this time of year. With the fun of the holiday comes the challenge of also trying to keep students engaged as you near a break, or just feeling stressed or pressed for time as you end a semester. So we know that this time of year can bring all kinds of different emotions. So we like to give away renter resources to hopefully support some of those pain points that educators feel during this time of year, and we're excited to share those with you today. So what are we doing today? Couple things. We're going to be giving away winter resources, which we're excited to make. They're really fun to make, actually, and we're excited to get to share those with you today. We'll be going over those in the webinar, explaining what they are, how they can be utilized. Near the end of the webinar, we'll be providing you with a link to the resources that we're going to be going over today, so hang on for that. We'll be recording the webinar as usual. Be sure to drop your questions in the chat. Our team is monitoring that, and we'll get you some answers. And we hope that this is going to be one of the more fun webinars that you've ever attended, because we're going to be doing some of those activities quickly together as we introduce them. So in advance, thank you for your participation and engagement.
So let's get right to it. When we drop the link for the winter resources, this is what it'll look like. The secondary has its own little image here. Your elementary version will have something similar, but we have something for everyone, K-12. We're going to walk you through some of these activities today. I'm also going to show you like ways that you could utilize these with your students. You could also do a lot of this with your staff as well. So we're really excited to jump in. Here is the menu. You'll have all of these different activities included: entry tasks, entry games, prompts for encouraging others, an empathy snowball effect lesson, and a bingo challenge. We'll give you a little bit of this experientially, so you'll get to participate. We know sometimes we learn best by doing, so we're looking forward to engaging together. But if you have questions, like we said, drop them in the chat. Brandon's going to kick us off with entry tasks.
Yeah, let's look at entry tasks that we're providing today. Entry tasks, just to remind us, as you know, are brief prompts that we can engage students with as they enter into a classroom. The key to a good entry task culture is that there's been a routine established, that students know what's expected when they enter into a classroom. That said, if you're a teacher who hasn't used entry tasks, or if you're an administrator and that hasn't been something that your school has been utilizing, this is a great opportunity to start that process and see what that can do for your students. There is a connection. We've been talking about, Hallie talked earlier about the empathy engagement connection, and entry tasks do a beautiful job of bringing these two concepts together. That's just not my opinion. That there's some science and research behind that, and Hallie's going to talk about that just a bit.
Yeah, when we're talking about empathetic responses in teaching, one of the things that we can do to lead with empathy and understanding with our students is to understand that students are coming to our room or to our school building each day from a variety of backgrounds. And we know that students that have a history of adverse childhood experiences or who are experiencing trauma benefit from neutralizing routines. And essentially, a neutralizing routine is a routine that is intentionally set ahead of time, that is planned for, and is a response to behavior that is not reactive. So if we can recognize that several students are dealing with anxiety or dealing with adverse childhood experiences, and they're coming to us and to our rooms, one of the first things we can do to lower their anxiety is to have a routine that they know is coming, that they expect, that is similar in structure each time, so that the act of coming into our room and getting started in classroom is neutralizing and regulating for their nervous system, so that they can lower their anxiety and be more present in class, ready to engage.
Entry tasks are a great pro-empathy strategy, but combined with greetings at the door as part of the routine, the neutralizing aspect of entry tasks can increase academic engaged time by 20%. They're a big deal. If you do the math, that's 12 more minutes per 60-minute class. That's 1,080 more hours on a typical 180 school day schedule. That's amazing. And we're painting the picture that these are worth your time to not just do during the winter, but at any point during your school year.
So let's jump in and put some of these into practice. With your free resources, you'll get they're slide based. You'll have a slide like this that allows you to sort of dynamically click in to any of the spaces here. So you'll have 5 days worth of entry tasks for either elementary or secondary level. And you click into each one, it'll take you right there. But what I love about these is how versatile they are. We're calling them entry tasks. You could use them to close out your classroom. You could use them as a transition activity. You could use them to tee up an activity with a staff, like a faculty meeting or a PLC, even a PTA or PTO meeting, to get parents involved and get everybody connected. It's a great strategy to use in so many ways. Whoops. So we're going to try one out. This is from our elementary winter resource, and it is a would you rather. So let's put in the chat, would you rather live in an igloo or live in a gingerbread house? We were talking about this earlier, and we're saying, it might be pretty obvious that gingerbread house is the best choice. And then we started thinking about the igloo and penguins and all the fun things that could go along with that. So we'd love to hear your ideas. And Hallie, which one do you think you would choose?
Yeah, and I will say I am seeing some igloos coming in the chat. So there are some people that would prefer that. I am someone who runs cold even in summer. So the idea of living in an igloo, I know that the science is supposed to, they're supposed to be insulated and warm, but I don't know if I trust that or my igloo making skills. So I would probably go with the gingerbread house, because then I would be surrounded by candy and snacks and things that I could eat. My house would probably smell really good without me having to do anything. So I am going to have to go with number 2, living in a gingerbread house.
I think that's a legit answer. Absolutely. I mean,
that seems to be winning the chat. That's for
yes.
sure. If we were in a class though, and that one person that talked about the igloo, that would be a fun voice to elevate for sure. Like there's got to be a cool story there.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Let's look at the secondary version of would you rather. Would you rather bake a dessert for people to enjoy or cook a dinner for people to enjoy? I already see some dessert fans coming into the chat. Oh, dessert is represented strongly in the chat. What do y'all think? I think I would choose dessert because it's so much easier. You just have to make one thing, whereas dinner could be a lot of different things to orchestrate. And I just hosted Thanksgiving at my house for the first time, and I'm still a little not over it yet. So I'm going to pick a dessert. What about y'all?
I didn't really think of the simplicity of baking a dessert over multiple dishes for people. I guess I was thinking more in a potluck, maybe like you're bringing a dish for dinner. I think that would be more reasonable, but it is a lot of moving parts to cook for several people.
I want to say baked dessert, but I don't think my guests would want me to do that. So with my baking skills, so it's probably going to be cooked dinner for people.
Nice. Well,
I like the suggestion in the chat.
I love to use would you rather when I was in the classroom, is to turn it into sort of a philosophical chairs type activity where you have people go to one side of the room, go to the side of the room that represents your choice, and then let kids sort of debate and try to convince people on the other side to change sides. Can end up being like a really fun class activity you could use in a variety of ways. You get kids talking and sharing their perspectives. You also get them like trying to persuade each other in a safe environment, obviously practicing respect first, but lots of, I'm sure, hot opinions around some of these would you rathers. Thanks for playing along. We're going to go on to our next activity, that is connection games. If you are a current Character Strong user, you know that relational activities in our secondary curriculum and connection games in our elementary activities are some of our very most popular resources. So we have created some just exclusively for this free winter resource giveaway. We're excited to share those with you. But first, let's talk about why connection matters, particularly this time of year when things can get a little chaotic in our classrooms. We've got a lot going on. There's probably not a more important time of year to focus on authentic connection. One of the things that we say a lot at Character Strong is that connection rarely happens by accident. It should be intentional. So when you think about that for just a minute, think about the students that you serve or the staff that you serve. And let's think about it through this lens. What if I just let connection happen by accident? If I just sort of let it happen and I don't have intentional ways to connect and make sure every student is connected in some way, what happens? Who are the kids I'm going to most likely connect with if I let it happen naturally? Drop in the chat. What do you think? That's good. Jolene says the extroverts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The kids who are outgoing. Sometimes the kids who are really needy and always have their hands up and always have a story to tell. Those are the kids they're going to connect with. Yeah.
I think
Not equitable.
Stephanie has a
Go ahead.
Stephanie has a really insightful comment that it's the ones that you are going to connect with the most, the students that are the most similar to you. Sometimes we have an affinity for students that we already have some lived experiences that are similar. We see ourselves in them a little bit or something, and that it may be those students that kind of rise out against the others.
Yeah, got some of those comments in the chat, and I love that wisdom. Yeah, we'll connect with the kids who are most like us, who maybe look like us. If we let it happen naturally. Sometimes we are missing connecting with the kids who probably need it the most. So how do we do that? One of the ways we do that is through our connection activities. If we carve out time to authentically and intentionally connect with kids on a regular basis, we are creating a structure that is going to make connection happen on purpose. And that's what we're all about. So we are going to play some of our connection games. This one is a fun one. Hallie, walk us through this one.
So this is the perfect recipe, and this is the connection game that is part of the Purposeful People or the elementary level resources. We are also going to show you a very similar game at the secondary level, but perfect recipe is all about choosing 3 ingredients to make the perfect recipe for the situation. And this connection game, when we're talking about that empathy and engagement connection games are great because they provide student choices. There are multiple options that students could end up with. There are also multiple correct answers, so no wrong answers. The responses from students are eliciting creativity, lived experience, differences in opinion, and it's also empathy centered because this allows educators to connect with students in a really quite facilitated way that still feels really natural and brings out opportunities for people to talk about their differences, share about their opinions, and come to different conclusions about their classmates. So Brandon, why don't we have you try this one? You're going to start by selecting an icon. So do one of those 5 icons look good to you today?
Yeah, tough choice. Let's go with the the mountain climber. That one right there. Purple.
All right, so it looks like you and your friends are about to have an epic snowball battle. So your job is to pick 3 ingredients to help you win. And can you share with us how you plan to use those 3 ingredients in combination?
Yeah, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, so this is something I have some good experience with. First of all, you do not want to use those gloves. That is a terrible selection for a snowball fight. They will stick to the glove and you can't grab it. So just side bonus response there. Don't use those gloves. But you want a lot of snowballs in your hopper to be able to throw. So definitely, I love that stack of snowballs that you've pre-made that you're ready to fire away with. I think you need a crew with you to win a good snowball fight. So I love having the friends right there. And then I always felt I was always kind of in my neighborhood, I was always the youngest person. And so I realized I needed a fast getaway after if I got lucky. And so give me that snowmobile so I can strike and flee.
All right, and let's look at another one. The secondary level connection game is very similar. You'll notice that there are more options and the scenarios are a little bit more complex, but very similar situations. So we're still going to select one of these 6 options now, and you're going to be picking 3 ingredients. And while we're doing this, feel free to drop what you would choose in the chat as well. So here is our next example. Julie, you want to select one? Looks like number 3.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
for number 3, your friend just called and invited you on a secret mission. However, this mission is so top secret that your friend can't even tell you what the mission is for or where you are going at all. So you have to choose 3 ingredients to take with you so you are ready for this secret mission. Julie, what 3 ingredients do you think you're selecting?
Okay, I Absolutely love this question. There are so many different directions I could go in. But I'm going to choose like things that I just would want to take along that I think could be fun. I'm going to absolutely choose that scooter motorcycle thing because why wouldn't I? That looks like a good time. And then I am going to choose the sandwich because you never know how long you're going to be on your mission, and food is important. And then I like the walkie-talkies because you can always be communicating with your friend. If you're going on with a friend, I like to have that communication. But I will say the lipstick is a very close fourth place for me. Never leave home without it.
It looks like the walkie-talkies are a popular answer. I think that that's maybe the one. If you're not sure what you're going to be handling, do we have cell service? Do we have a way to communicate with one another? Walkie-talkies is a good one.
I'm trying to figure out why you would need a bird on a secret mission, and I'm stumped.
Oh, well, if you've seen the new Hunger Games movie,
Oh,
the
okay.
bird actually plays quite a role.
Haven't seen
And
it.
not to
Good
a spoiler.
Or if your secret mission is going to be amongst pirates, maybe you need to blend in. You need could be a prop or something to
There
help
we
you
go.
out as well.
Love it.
Nice. All right. Good
All right, I
stuff.
think that takes us to the next one. Our next category of giveaway here, winter resources, is called To the Person Who. And this is a tool that we use in our curriculum in different spaces. We use it in our professional development that we do for schools as well. You can use this as a closing activity or an entry task similar to what we have been modeling. And it's really an expansion of what you are doing already during your class. So it can be used in multiple different ways, really flexible strategy. The activity is really designed to support our emotional well-being. Emotional well-being comes from having a sense of purpose in your education, in your work, in your world. And one way that we can support this in others is by reminding others of their value to you. And in this activity, we're helping students spot the importance of purpose, which is such a strong driver of engagement. And we're doing this through the lens, again, of gratitude, through an activity called To the Person Who. One thing that, if you're like me, I am very driven by my calendar. And the danger with that is that can lead to the perception that if I haven't committed a specific time to it or a lot of time to it, that it might not be that important or prioritized. And in reality, some of the most important things that we can do for others don't take a lot of time. Time does not equal impact. And I think if you're delivering this opportunity for students, if you engage in this activity To the Person Who, I think you want to make that point, that it doesn't take a lot of time to sometimes have a great impact. And so let's do that today. Let's take an opportunity to just take a couple minutes and have an impact on some people that are important to us. So what this looks like, it's just a short activity. It takes about 5 minutes. There's 5 different prompts that you can use throughout the week. And basically, it's an invitation for students to send a meaningful message to someone significant in their life. Let's take a look at one here on the next slide. To the person who spreads love through acts of service. I just wanted to let you know I appreciate the way you're always doing things for others, and blank. The way you help out by blank makes my life easier because of blank. Thank you for being so blank. This is a scaffold. This is a sentence stems. This really supports a lot of different learners. So the idea would be that you could have students, if you're a tech-friendly school, you could have them take out their phones. If you're a secondary student, perhaps have them send a message, or better yet, handwrite a message that they, using this scaffold here to support their thinking and to help them think of a really meaningful piece of gratitude that they could share for someone else. What's that look like at the elementary level, Julie?
Yeah, so we know at the elementary level, we have more students who are still emerging with their literary skills. And so we provided a little bit more scaffolding for them. We have printable sentence stems that you can print out as the educator, have the students just fill in the blank. It makes it a little bit easier for them, but there's also 5 to choose from, a little bit more simplified prompts for them to follow. But we just love the idea of equipping students with language that is meaningful and more specific in how they appreciate others. So we love the idea of training up our kids K through 12, how to acknowledge others and appreciate them in really authentic ways. Yes, this will all be included. Tanya's asking in the chat, even the principals. Yeah.
All right, another one. To the person who brings me joy. It brings me joy when you blank, you make a difference in my life. If you were doing this one, if we were doing this one together today, I want you to think about the name of the person that you would send it to. And rather than us like taking a couple minutes and actually sending this, which is what we would love to do, but we didn't think that would be the most exciting thing to watch in a webinar. But we're going to do this. On the count of 3, we're going to do a waterfall. And what I would ask you to do is simply just drop the name of the person who brings you joy. And maybe that will prompt you. Certainly you can take a picture of this and do it later in the day. That's what I'm going to do. But on the count of 3, drop a name, and we're all going to get blessed by seeing the joy that other people bring to us. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Love seeing those names come in. Brandon, I just want to add one exciting detail to for everyone to be aware of is that all of the resources that we are sharing with you today are also going to be available to you in Spanish. So it's a really good point to keep in mind. Even the printables that you'll be able to download, there will be Spanish versions of those as well. It's really, really great to have.
All right. Thanks for seeing so many wonderful names. I love it. Allie.
So what have we provided so far that we've covered? We have provided some entry tasks. And by the way, that's 5 days worth of entry tasks that you'll be given. You'll also be given 5 to the person who prompts, and this would be at the secondary level or the elementary level. You've got the connection game that you could play for as many days as you would like. And then another thing that we're including in our winter resources is this lesson. This lesson is designed to be about 30 to 45 minutes. You could really expand it or shorten it depending on what kind of time you were working with. But this lesson is called the Empathy Snowball Effect lesson. And this is absolutely about the empathy and engagement connection. This is a high engagement game. It involves movement, it involves play, but it's also a really structured way to facilitate practicing empathy skills. So practicing what it really looks like to ask important questions, to listen thoughtfully, and then to process what somebody might be feeling or might be experiencing based off of the responses that you get. So we want to talk through this lesson a little bit, give you kind of a preview of what it looks like. We're not going to show you every slide that comes in the lesson, and you are going to be seeing some from elementary and some from secondary, because this lesson functions the same way for both grades. Both grade bands, but we know that elementary students tend to need more scaffolding. So you'll see those differences here. This is kind of going to be a mod podge of both of those resources kind of together. So the lesson will start by setting up the game and the activity. So we're going to be making snowballs, having some fun together, and then we will connect with other people's feelings and practice empathy. So starting something like this, it's really important to make sure that our students have clarity on the language that we're using in this activity. So we take some time to discuss the snowball effect. What happens when a snowball rolls down the hill? We often tend to describe things that cascade or get bigger over time as this snowball effect. So making sure we have time to define this, relating it to how could the snowball effect be related to other people's feelings or their experiences. And then once we've defined what the snowball effect is, we also move into defining empathy for our students. So this is from elementary, we give kind of a definition. Empathy is about understanding and connecting to other people's feelings. At the secondary level, this would be more of a conversation. What does empathy look like to you? How would you define it? What are some examples of empathy? And getting that connection to empathy growing as we spread it, being like how a snowball rolls down the hill and gets bigger and bigger as it goes. So once we've done a little bit of that pre-work, then we start to facilitate the empathy portion of the lesson, which has to begin by responding to some prompts. This activity is meant to be anonymous in student responses. So you can tell students when you're facilitating this activity with them, whatever you write down is not going to be attached to you if you don't put your name on it. So there are going to be 4 prompts. Students are going to be taking some pieces of paper. You can see on the screen here, it walks them through with visuals what they're going to be doing. But you start with 2 papers, you split them in half to end up with 4 different papers. And then each of these papers is going to be a different prompt that students will be answering. So as you can see on the next slide, in elementary, we give them a little bit of a scaffold. We give them kind of a sentence stem to answer. At the secondary level, it's a little bit more open-ended, but some of the prompts that they are going to be answering are things like, a dream that I have is, a fear I have is, something I worry often about is, something I care a lot about is. So you're going to give students time to reflect individually. And then comes the fun part, the empathy snowball part of the lesson. So what students will then do is they're going to crumple up their responses. Again, they're anonymous because they don't have answers attached. So they're going to turn those 4 pages into 4 paper snowballs. After they've created their snowballs, you get to facilitate a snowball toss in your classroom. And we don't show it here, but we do include some instructions like don't aim for the face, throw it half force at the hardest, kind of setting up those expectations for how to make this fun and not dangerous. But students will engage in a snowball toss. There will be snowballs flying around the room. And when the snowball toss is finished, then students will all grab snowballs nearby. So they're no longer attached to their own responses. They're now collecting responses from their peers. Once they've collected up their snowballs, students are going to get into groups. They're going to take time to unwrap and read the snowball responses. And then comes the part of the facilitated structured empathy practice. So this is the time when students will read and respond to the prompts with their groups. So they're going to be asked to think about how this person might have been feeling when they wrote the prompt. What is one way that you might relate to the response that you read? If you could ask this person a follow-up question about what they wrote, what would you ask? If you could describe the person who wrote this based off of what they are saying on their response, how might you describe that person? So those are some sentence questions or some questions for elementary. Here are some questions at the secondary level. So at the secondary level, they get a little more time with their group. They're responding to a few more prompts, but they're very similar, you'll notice. So one other thing I think this person might dream, fear, worry about, care about is we take it a little further. After students have had the opportunity to reflect on the responses that they've collected, then you'll come together as a class and have a full class discussion. What did we learn about other people today? How did we practice empathy? How has our awareness or our perspective changed during this activity? And that takes you up to the close of the lesson. So this lesson could definitely be expanded. It could be repeated. One thing that we wanted to note is that depending on your school, if this is a resource that several staff at your school are utilizing, then you may be running into this idea of, well, if I run this lesson in my classroom and somebody else is running this lesson in their classroom, is that redundant? So we would suggest a few things. If you know that other educators at your school are delivering the same lesson, we might suggest having a full school-wide empathy snowball effect lesson. So maybe doing the lesson in all classes at the same time, if you can get all your staff on board to engage in this. That way students are all leaving their class at the same time, talking about this snowball toss that they just engaged in. Another way that you could do this is you could moderate the questions. So you could repeat this activity in the future, similar structure, but ask students to reflect on different questions related to empathy and respond to them in a very similar way as outlined in this lesson.
Hallie, for those in joining us today, I was a principal for 20 years, and I'm always thinking of like how I could make a staff meeting better and bring some life to it. And as you were sharing this, I also was thinking what a cool activity to do with the staff, just to help us bridge together, maybe understand a little bit of where people are coming from at this time of year. So that's just another added context, perhaps, that might be of interest to folks. All right, we got one more activity to share today. It's called the Blizzard Bingo Challenge. Like the To the Person Who activity that we showed earlier, the Blizzard Bingo is another opportunity to put gratitude into action. There is a definite connection between empathy and engagement. This activity is a class challenge. Julie, you can click to the next slide. The activity is a class challenge. It's a quest, like a journey, if you will, with your students, which I really like. When we're a team, we're working on something collectively together. When we have a collective experience and where there is voice and choice for students, it automatically drives engagement. In this activity, students will have a choice to engage in a challenge that they're interested in. And so many of the challenges are an opportunity to practice character-related skills, including supporting and appreciating others, which is timely during this month of December, when sometimes we can be thinking a lot about ourselves. So this really tees that up and prompts some really strong thinking. In the Blizzard Bingo, you're going to end up printing or projecting a bingo card. And each slot on the card, and we'll show you that in a second, is a different character challenge. And each challenge on the card has a different degree of difficulty assigned to it. From easy, you can see represented by the one snowflake, to really hard. And the idea is, and not really hard, I would just say hard. And the idea is that in each of your classes, you would share the bingo challenges. And then as you debrief each day about what your students took up, what they actually participated in, you would mark it off on the bingo board, with the hopes of your class accomplishing the goal of getting bingo. So the next slide, I think, really helps illustrate that a little bit. Julie's going to walk through some of the different adventures that your students could go on.
Yeah, a lot of choice and voice involved here for your students, but presenting them with the challenges of, okay, how do we want to do this as a class? And these are challenges for how they can get out and impact others in a positive way, improve their school culture, their classroom culture. It's ways to really just step out of themselves and make a positive difference in the lives of those around them. So these challenges could be, your class might say, we're all in, let's do them all, or let's divide them up. And like maybe one of us will take some and some will take another, or maybe we want to do a sideways adventure. We're going to try to get 4 across. Maybe we want to go diagonal December. So really just thinking about different ways that we can challenge our class in a way that's fun. You could also do this with staff. You can do it lots of different ways. You could do it in small groups. You could have small groups compete in your class to complete as many as they can. But here are some examples of what those look like. So you'll see some of these, like doorstop, holding the door for others, like being assigned to, hey, who's going to get this door in the class, in the school building? Who's going to get this door? Really fun, just easy ways that they can get involved and build that positive school culture, which we know is so important. What a great time of year to just give a shot in the arm to your school culture, get kids connected and just authentically participating in building the kind of culture that we want to see.
Julie, I would just add that the real power of this is the discussion. Mm-hmm. And even if no one in your class took on one of the challenges, finding that opportunity to say, you know, what would have happened, or why didn't you? Was it uncomfortable, and what would happen if we took that one on? I think the discussion is really what can generate that culture change that you were talking about, and it's great just to hear people's thoughts on that. Yeah.
I would also mention that we are talking about in a classroom context with these resources. This is something you could do with your class or something you could do with your staff. You may have several class periods in the day, so maybe you have a different bingo sheet running for different class periods, and maybe the competition is between periods if you're at the secondary level. But we often get questions here at Character Strong about ways to send some of this home. So how can we support our families in supporting us doing this work to build our students' character and our even adults' character at the school as well? So we are also offering an additional resource. We have the Blizzard Bingo for the classroom, but one other thing we're going to be offering is the Family Blizzard Bingo. So it's going to be set up the same way, same type of challenges, same tiers of difficulty with the snowflakes, but the Family Blizzard Bingo is meant to send home with students and encourage them to bring this to their family. This could be a resource you send over winter break, and maybe you say, hey, bring it back after winter break. If you have a bingo filled out, I'd love to see it. It could be just something that you send home and don't return to, but just knowing that students are practicing this structure in your classroom, they can also continue with their family. So the Family Blizzard Bingo are similar character challenges, but they are challenges that could be taken on with a family at home, in your community, in your house, wherever our students are landing at home. So we have kind of those dual challenges at the same time. So we would really encourage sending communication home to your families, maybe saying, hey, this is something that we're introducing at our school this week, something we're working on. if you would like to continue the conversation at home with your student, here is an additional resource that we would suggest using with them.
Great. Also available in Spanish, which we love. And now we're wrapping it up. If you have not noticed, our colleagues have dropped the winter resources link in the chat. So be sure to grab that now. You're getting an exclusive view of these. They have not been sent out to everyone yet. So grab them now. You are the early birds. But we'd love for you to let us know, what is the one thing that you are most excited to use in your classroom or with your staff? We had entry tasks, we had connection games, we had to the person who, we had a snowball challenge, snowball effect lesson, and we had Blizzard bingo. What are you most excited to use in your classroom? Drop in the chat, download the resource. We're excited to let you guys run with this and impact your students in a really fun way. It's been fun sharing these with you.
Love seeing the diverse responses. This is great. Quick feedback for us too. So thank you. Thanks for doing a great job today in the chat too. This webinar was way more fun with all of you being a part of it.
Great. Well, we've got some fun things coming up. More demos. We got curriculum demos coming up. The 1st and the 8th. We've got tier 1 and the gym, or tier 2 and the gym demos as well. Leadership, really all of the demos. So if you liked what you saw here and you're interested in having more of this for your classroom and for your school, come check out our full curriculum products. And whoops, went too fast there. We've got school culture training. If you are interested in having Character Strong staff come out and support your school, your district, here are some great things that we have going on. These are regional trainings you can sign up for all over the country. And our tier 2 certification training coming up in March. If you are interested in tier 2 curriculum, you're going to want some great training on it. It's coming up as well. MTSS, more certification coming your way. This is January in California. Thanks, y'all. We're so glad you joined us today. Brandon, Hallie, any closing thoughts?
No, hey, a lot of fun, and appreciate Hallie. Just full disclosure, Hallie was a big part of the construction of a lot of these resources, and just want to compliment you, Hallie, specifically. A great job.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it. And I've really appreciated seeing everyone's responses in the chat, seeing the feedback about what you're excited for, how you're planning on using it. I'd love to see people that are planning, like, I'm going to bring this into my staff meeting, and then we're going to bring it to the classroom, and then we're going to send it out to families. That is what we love to see, that character education is not just for our students, character education is for everyone. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming. We're so excited to see how these winter break resources, or how these December resources, impact your students and your school community. Please feel welcome to share your success stories, share photos of your snowball toss if you engage in that. Character Strong would love to see some of that feedback, see how it goes, see the laughter from your students. So just thank you for everything. We really appreciate your engagement and your time today. It's been a joy bringing these resources to you all.
Well said. Thanks, everyone.